Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Black Table Talk, Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles, and it is Wednesday. Now, you all know that on Wednesdays we typically discuss relationships. And today we're still going to be in the line and in the stream of relationships, but we're going to be talking about the movie Sinners today. All right. When we get to that part of the broadcast, I will let you know when we get there. And it's definitely going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, you can log off at that point. Make sure you go see the film and then come back and catch part two of the broadcast. All right. It is the last day of National Poetry Month, so I do want to read some poetry to you, but I want to start off with some words that change my life. Meditations from me. Here's some words that changed my life. I hope they change yours. I hope that you will think about the words that you speak over yourself on today. My work is aligning with the elements of me that are free. I am willing to live outside the confines of capitalism if it means I can live free. I am willing to find new channels of economy so that I can earn in a way that matches my values and my conscience. I am willing to release present oppression in pursuit of lasting freedom. I evict worry from my mind. Only peace has the right to live here for free. I embrace self trust. I am not afraid to create change and break boundaries. I stand tall in the rooms that I enter. I belong there. I don't dim my light, I turn it up. All right. You're not going to find those words anywhere else on the internet because I wrote them. All right. Let's get into a little bit of poetry. I do want to give us some poetry today as this is National Poetry Month and this is the last day. However, if you are a poet, a writer, an artist, I'm going to encourage you to continue that part of yourself beyond the month. These two poems are coming from us by Dudley Randall. The first poem is entitled A Different Image, very short, but very powerful. The age requires this task. Create a different image, reanimate the mask. Shatter the icons of slavery and fear. Replace the leer of the minstrel's burnt court face with a proud, serene, and classic bronze of Benin. Powerful. This next poem and last poem for today is called Ballad of Birmingham. And again, I believe that these poems can be found on the internet. Again, the poet's name is Dudley Randall. Ballad of Birmingham. Mother dear, may I go downtown instead of out to play? and march the streets of Birmingham in a freedom march today? No, baby, no, you may not go, for the dogs are fierce and wild, and clubs and hoses, guns and jail aren't good for a little child. But, mother, I won't be alone. Other children will go with me and march the streets of Birmingham to make our country free. No, baby, no, you may not go, for I fear those guns will fire. But you may go to church instead and sing in the children's choir. She has combed and brushed her night dark hair, and bathed rose petals sweet, and drawn white gloves on her small brown hands, and white shoes on her feet. The mother smiled to know her child was in the sacred place, but that smile was the last smile to come upon her face. When she heard the explosion, her eyes grew wet and wild. She raced through the streets of Birmingham, calling for her child. She clawed through bits of glass and brick, then lifted out a shoe. Oh, here's the shoe my baby wore. But baby, where are you? Pretty powerful. This poem was written in what we call the post-Renaissance period, and obviously it is a juxtaposition of the dangers that Black people found themselves in, whether they were in church, right, in the supposed right place to be or the sacred place to be, or whether it was children um, during the Birmingham March, the Children's March in Birmingham. The idea of that poem is that regardless of where children were at that time and at that place, they were not necessarily safe. That's a very powerful poem. You probably may have never heard it before. Again, it's called Ballad of Birmingham by Dudley Randall. That's going to take us into our next book, which is Meditations for Black Women. And I always say for this book, I have found these to be helpful for anyone, whether you are a Black woman or otherwise. Today's topic is breaking generational trauma patterns, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into our Sinners movie review. And again, if you haven't seen the movie, I'll let you know when we're getting ready to talk about it so you can log off and not have the movie spoiled for you. Your body will remember your generational trauma, but it will also remember your generational healing. And I'm so glad that this person said this. Dr. Marielle Bouquet, psychologist and author of Break the Cycle, A Guide to Healing Intergenerational Trauma. Breaking generational trauma patterns requires me to embrace the healing process. It's a tough work breaking generational trauma patterns, aka generational curses. I like to say generational habits. However, it is something you must attempt on your own wellness journey. Generational trauma patterns, such as poor conflict resolution skills, are traumas passed down from the previous generation. Intergenerational trauma can be passed down from parents, grandparents, and the collective Black community. While you work on breaking these familial trauma patterns, you can also embrace the healing that will be done through you for the generations around you. The focus doesn't always have to be the hard habit changing work that you're doing. You have to make the decision that unhealthy generational patterns stop with you. When you heal, everybody around you now has permission to do the same. If you don't do the work to heal from toxic generational cycles, the trauma will live inside you. This can add unnecessary stress to your mind, your body, and your soul. To begin or continue the work of breaking intergenerational trauma, you must first remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. This kind of healing will ask a lot of you, so pace yourself. With healing trauma, another thing that must be done up front is establishing safety. Safety within yourself, with others, and in your environment. Be sure to connect with people you trust, like your besties, as you engage in generational healing work. If needed, get in touch with a mental health professional so they can accompany you on your healing journey, as some things that come up may be hard to process. Most importantly, let the healing process guide you back to yourself as you strip away the layers of trauma that have encapsulated you. Answer this question for yourself. In what ways do you feel like you are breaking generational trauma patterns? Well, I know one way that I'm doing it is I am giving myself permission to speak my truth. I have found in my older generations that trying to get some of our elders to talk is literally like pulling teeth. And one thing that is becoming more and more clear to me is a lot of times we don't know our full past, we don't know our full history because sometimes our elders have gone through trauma or they've endured certain things and they don't want to talk about it. But because they're choosing not to talk about it, they are in fact setting the future generations up or putting them at a disadvantage because they have other information and data in that talk that they need to share, the thing that they need to get out, that if they don't share it, it's going to leave gaps in knowledge that your future generation needs. So whether that be where you grew up, some elders don't talk about their hometown at all. They don't talk about where they grew up. um, People that did you harm, sometimes they don't want to mention the people that did them harm, but then those people go on to outlive them and enter the lives of their future generations and create more harm on top of the harm they did to you because you didn't open your mouth and say who it was that harmed you. So a lot of times your silence empowers abusers to continue on. So those are some things that I notice when we're talking about trauma and when we're talking about how can we heal, how can we help our next generation. A part of that is simply opening up and talking and speaking. And sometimes people think that that's a minor thing, but it really is a big thing. Sometimes our elders, when they're going through things physically, right? They want everybody to think that they're the strong one or that they are the one that is constantly put together. And then you find out that, oh, auntie or big mama has some kind of terminal illness happening and nobody knew. Why? Because that person never talked. They didn't open up about, what they were dealing with physically. And then it can get to the point where, their life could have been saved, but because they didn't talk, they didn't go to the doctor, they were afraid, all of these different things. You look back at that and you say, man, had they actually talked initially when things were going on or things were happening, they could have gotten the necessary intervention needed to help them to help them to live longer. Um, And so that can be something that weighs on your family, that people just clam up and they don't talk about the important things they need to talk about, not just the latest dance move, right? Um, but it's those deeper, more important conversations, conversations about health, conversations about past trauma in the family, conversations about, financial things that might have happened. Sometimes people have financial patterns in their family that they don't find out about until later. And as she said, it's not just generational healing, but sometimes, well, it's not just generational trauma, sometimes it's also generational healing. Some people I know are just now finding out that they came from a family where were generations of business people in their family, but they're just now finding this out. And so they struggled with thinking, man, I don't know how to start a business. I don't know how to form a business. I'm very unsure and I'm not very confident in this. But then you find out, wait a minute, I come from a whole generation. I come from two and three generations of people who started businesses, who started with nothing, right? That's information that now that that person knows, it builds confidence in them because, yes, somebody in my family has done this before. They have been this route. So I feel like I can go on and I can accomplish it as well. So again, it's not just the generational trauma part, it's also the things that can heal us in our generation. It's also the good things we need to know that happened in our generations because not everything was bad. Not everything was about trauma. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And as we get ready to transition into the talk about sinners, I got this book a couple weeks ago, but I said I'm definitely going to get into this one and this one for the summer for myself. But I want to share these with you because I feel like it's in context of what we're going to talk about today. So this one is called In Open Contempt. This is going to be my personal summer reading, Confronting White Supremacy in Art and Public Space. People are having a discussion right now about what's happening with museums and the defunding of museums and removing historical artifacts and all of those good things. So I think this is right on time to read about. And then my other summer read, Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. Now, as a multidisciplinary artist, I already know this. I would say intuitively, but this is a research based book, and I want to read the back covers so you get an idea of what's in here. Many of us think of the arts as entertainment, a luxury of some kind. In Your Brain on Art, authors Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross show how activities from painting, making music, and dancing to expressive writing, architecture, and more are essential to our lives. We're on the verge of a cultural shift in which the arts can deliver potent, accessible, and proven solutions for the well being of everyone. They offer compelling research that shows how engaging in or even observing art for as little as 45 minutes reduces the stress hormone cortisol, no matter your skill level, and just one art experience a month can extend your life by 10 years. I think that's pretty powerful. I think that's pretty important to know. Playing music builds cognitive skills and enhances learning. The vibrations of a tuning fork create sound waves that counteract stress. Virtual reality can provide cutting edge therapeutic benefits, and interactive exhibits dissolve the boundaries between art and viewers, engaging all of our senses and strengthening our memory, which is a part of what happened with the movie Sinners, by the way. Doctors have even been prescribing museum visits to address loneliness, dementia, and many other physical and mental health concerns. Your Brain on Art is a portal into this new understanding about how the arts can help transform traditional medicine, build healthier communities, and mend an aching planet. This is going to be a good read for me. All right. So let's talk Sinners. We're getting ready to talk about Sinners. I'm going to give you spoiler alerts. So this is your time to exit if you don't want to hear any spoiler alerts about Sinners. What I'm going to do, because this is a little bit of a different audience than the audience that's on my Black Table Talk page. So I'm going to read you 3 things that I wrote about Sinners after seeing the film. So I will start with my first initial takeaway. I think maybe I wrote this a couple of hours after watching the movie. Here's what I wrote. Ryan Coogler did for Black Southern culture, for Gullah Geechee and Delta blues culture, what Kendrick Lamar did for West Coast hip hop and Compton culture and Black American culture at the Super Bowl. Coogler was and is speaking directly to us while simultaneously keeping an overarching theme about vampire tales. Now I have a whole trauma around horror films. Horror is not my genre. It is not the first thing that I would go see. It's just not, because I know that I have trauma attached to those kinds of films because number one, I was exposed to them too early in life. And I was exposed to them through a parent. But that's a whole other thing. We don't have time for that today. All right. But he's keeping an overarching theme about vampire culture and vampire tales in this film. If you don't know that visual language and symbolism of the South, right? You will come away from this film saying it was just okay. And you know what? That's okay. If you didn't get all of the symbolism in it, that's fine, right? Not everybody is going to look at that and do what we call in the arts world, be able to read all of the visual language in that film. Some of us who are in the arts world, who study African traditional religions, who study African art, we're going to look at that film and we're going to have a whole different lens on when we look at it, and we're going to be able to read that film like we read a book. Other people did not do that. They didn't come away from it with that, and that is okay. The thing that I like most about Sinners is that Coogler allowed Blackness to simply be. He allowed Blackness to breathe. Allowed Blackness to exist without stereotypical tropes about Black people. He is not trying to tell the audience what Blackness is. A lot of times people are like, there was something different and real and authentic about this film. It was because he allowed Black people to be. He didn't try to write in a stereotype to the film that would have made it seem very awkward. Okay. He simply shows what Blackness is. He did more showing than he actually did telling. If you had a hard time understanding the vampiric nature of pseudo white supremacy, I think this was probably the best visual expression of what white supremacy is and how it moves through a culture that I have ever seen. And the fact that he did it through a horror film is brilliant. I said Kugler embodies it in the main antagonist, Remick, or the what they call the main vampire. He was infecting everyone he met with his idea of what it meant to unify. Because even though he was trying to unify people, it was still through the lens of, I've got a superior notion of what we need to do. He infected everyone he met. He didn't infect the native and indigenous people, but from the Klansmen, because he actually did not like the Klansmen, to um, Mary, who represented the mulatto or the mixed person or the biracial person, we might say today, to Asian people, who are often seen as the model minority in our culture, to Black people. He was infecting everybody. You cannot befriend this pseudo supremacist spirit. You can't befriend it. You cannot let it in because it will devour everything and everyone. Yeah, it seeks to live on and continues to live on in every generation as it finds new hosts. He was looking for hosts to keep his thing going. I wrote, this spirit wants your mind, your soul, and your ancestral memories so it can imitate you and draw other people in. Meanwhile, it will leave you with its soulless mannerisms. It hunts for the artist. Now, obviously, the focus was on Sammy the musician, but the reality is this spirit actually hunts for artists in general. It does. Because artists are portal openers. Artists access the infinity. Artists can connect you to past and future in the present. That's one of the gifts of being an artist. And if you're an artist, you probably know that. No one has to tell you that. That's just something innately that you're connected to. It has nothing to offer you. This spirit doesn't. Under its control, you are never fully living and you are never fully dying. You're stuck, unable to transition in this vampire nature, in this vampire state. Your body is used forever by this entity as an avatar for its goals. Now, I also said that the South is still haunted by this vampiric spirit and by the legacy of Jim Crow. We are still being haunted by the legacy of Jim Crow. America is still being haunted by the legacy of Jim Crow. Just look at the executive orders that were rolled out just Monday and Tuesday. They're literally trying to revive the spirit of Jim Crow right now in real time. So this was a timely film. Kugler, shows the physical and the spiritual side of the same entity. Because somebody said, well, what was the point of the clans scene? And for me, the point was you don't just have to deal with the spiritual side of pseudo supremacy, you also have to deal with the physical side of it. There's a underlying spiritual side, and then there is a physical side. There's what we see, and then there's the other side, what we might not see. Excuse me. At night they fight to not be devoured by this spirit, but in the daylight there is still a war to be waged with the same spirit. The idea is there is no rest, and it must be faced head on. Everyone will not survive the fight, but to not be aware or to leave community is to be the first victims of this spirit. Now, one of the things I have a bone to pick with is the fact that there were only a few of them that knew what was really going down with the vampire spirit, and they chose to send all of those black people in there who were just partying and having a good time. They chose to send all of them out into the night, unaware of what was about to go down. And I feel like that was probably the biggest flaw in their fight, because had they informed people of what was going on, yeah, some of those people would have chosen to leave anyway, but at least they would have been informed. Had those people been informed, maybe they would have chosen to stay and fight. But they had less people to combat it because they let all of those people go. They let all those people leave, and all of those people were infected and came back to fight against them. That is a whole other word about the Black community. Um, that's a word, because if we have more people fighting against us who look like us, we're going to be in a losing fight, okay? Excuse me. Our ancestors live on in our memory and in our telling. Griots are storytellers, gatekeepers between past and future, standing in the gap and holding a space for the past and the prophetic future. Now, those words have gone viral. I'm sure somebody has copied and pasted them and pretended that they are their words, because that's what people do on social media, but they're mine. And then I wanted to get into the music. So I'm going to read to you what I wrote about the music, and particularly not all of the music, but the main scene that a lot of people are talking about, where it had the past, present, and future melded together, right? So it is the music itself becomes a character in this film. The music itself is a character in this film. The evolution and power of music to transcend, to ascend, to transform, and to transmute was a key element in this film. Music, we know, has the ability to disappear the walls between space and time so that the past, the future, and the present dance as one. And it was such a beautiful film. It was such a beautiful sequence. I think they said they shot it in one day, which takes a lot, because you had dancers in there, you had to people had to move around in certain ways, and so to get that actually done in one day was amazing. I have done some acting. I have done some film production, and I've seen where it has taken people all day just to do 2 minutes of a shot. and it took all day to film it. So hats off to Coogler and his production team for getting all of that done in one day. Back to what I was going to say. It is Sammy's music that catches the attention of the main vampire Remick. He says, I came for Sammy. I came for his music. Remick hopes to turn the preacher boy and use his gift to reconnect with his own ancestors. Because some people were saying, well, why is he really there for Sammy? He wanted to have the ability to reconnect with his own ancestors. And to this day, people are still in search of that gift, that anointing to open portals and realms, either to use your gift to create yokes upon people or to use your gift to destroy yokes. Because we often talk about the anointing. We say, well, it's the anointing that breaks the yoke, it's the anointing that destroys bondages. But anointing can also be used to create bonds. And so we see that with some of the music that we listen to now. There are bonds being created upon people through music that's destroying them. And then there are people who use their music in a way that heals and breaks bonds. As the music plays, you begin to see an apparition of a shaman, and you see African tribal dancers begin to mingle in the crowd. The roof literally catches on fire in this dream-like moment, imitating the song, The Roof, the Roof, the Roof is on Fire. A lot of people saw that symbolism, right? There was a modern day DJ, there was an electric guitarist, there were twerking club goers, there was a ballerina, an Asian dancer, and more. There were also some break dancers in there too. But when this part of the film was going, I felt as if the music was literally moving through my entire body beyond the screen. It was almost like you felt like you were becoming a part of the music scene yourself. Now, I don't know if anybody else was experiencing that. I've heard people say that they were emotionally moved. I've heard people say that they started crying and they didn't know why they were crying, that it was such an emotional moment for them. But for me, it literally felt like I had become part of the scene, and like the music was moving through my body, my entire being. And the only other place that I felt like that was when I went to a Rhiannon Giddens concert last year. And I think I came back and told you all about that. She is a griot herself. She plays the banjo among other instruments, but I think banjo is her primary instrument. I went to a live concert, and it took me 2 days to come down from the music high of being in that space, because it was literally like I felt overwhelmed. I felt flooded by her music. And then I came to find out that she was a part of this soundtrack. So I was like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. But the sequence just kept getting more and more amazing as it went on. And I believe that Kugler pulled something from the immaterial realm to get that. What he showed is something that a lot of people feel when they're writing music. A lot of my neurodivergent friends said sometimes when they get overstimulated, that was almost a visual of what it feels like to be overstimulated, where you feel everything all at once, all the time, all of your senses coming together. And to be able to convey that visually is a gift in and of itself. And so I felt like also, if you're a person who is a seer or a prophet, and you're a person who has open visions, he really actually sort of showed people what it looks like to have an open vision who've never experienced that before. But also, let's talk about the amazing music of Miles Caton, the teenage son of gospel singer Timony Figueroa. And if you don't know about her, she's the person that sings, How Many Times Do I Go Against Your Will? That song. This is one of the first, probably one of the first gospel songs I learned as a teenager. That's his mother. I was like, okay, again, this tracks. that generational gifting of song and music. Miles actually learned, who played the character of Sammy, he actually learned how to play the guitar for this role. Okay, we've had a guitar sitting in our living room for a year. I'm still trying to learn how to play it. He learned how to play it for this role. Does it look like he just learned how to play the guitar? Absolutely not. Okay, so again, hugely talented, hugely gifted, amazing. I'm excited to see where his career will go, both in music and in film. But also, um, inside of this music sequence, you see a figure, an African figure that's doing a dance, and that is from the Ivorian culture. It's called the Zawali mask dance. And a lot of people couldn't figure out who that mask figure was. That's where it comes from. And I posted online a video for people to take a look at. The last person I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to open it up for some talk back with Pastor Ben, who saw the film last night. So we're going to get his insights as well. But I wanted to talk about that love relationship between Annie and Smoke. Annie represents, I believe, the bedrock of Black Southern culture. I grew up in the South. My aunts are Annie to me. They are beautiful, they are loving, they're towering. Many of my aunts are darker skinned, they're curvaceous, they're very spiritual women, very capable, they're entrepreneurial, homemaking, but they're also well loved women, right? So for me to see Annie on screen was not an anomaly, even though it has been painted as such through Hollywood tropes. Annie makes up the fabric of the Black Southern culture and Black Southern tradition. And so seeing this Hollywood trope being shattered and Annie being and breathing and existing in all of her mystical self, her melanated self, was a revelation for a lot of people, but it was a visual confirmation for me because though that is the kind of person that I grew up around. She is spiritual, she is strong, she is tender, she's courageous and intelligent, she's industrious. She is the woman who can cook, both naturally and spiritually. She is the woman who rejoices and mourns. She is grace embodied without artificiality. She is dignified and she commands respect. She does it throughout this entire film. She's discerning and she's also prayerful. She's the one who asks the questions most of the film, if you notice. She is sensually direct yet discreet. She is both matron and maven. She attends to her grief while also attending to her grind. Annie is only working for your good and never your demise. She discerns when something isn't right, and she will save your life if you listen first and quickly. Remember that hashtag that everybody was putting out a couple years ago, believe Black women? Well, we need to probably put that hashtag back out because, yeah. Annie uses her power for your good and never for your harm. She carries the culture and the spiritual consciousness, and she knows that if those vampires can get a hold of her, they can farm that spiritual consciousness. And so she makes sure that she's able to go to the other realm where she's supposed to be and that she's not trapped between worlds. She's often carrying ancestral wounds and wisdom. She's often the sober one in the room while everyone else is having a good time. She's a watchman. She's keeping out, lookout. She is confident and not afraid nor intimidated by the aims and the aspirations of Smoke. She's the kind of person that will hold you down and hold on to your heart. And she is right. Your body does not forget an Annie. There would be no Black communities, past, present, or future, without Annie. But she too needed protecting because Remick wanted Annie gone just as much as he wanted Sammy's music. She is a gatekeeper of spiritual protective power and ancestral wisdom. Discerning women like Annie stand in the way, using her knowledge to combat evil. She was a gatekeeper and a culture keeper, and you cannot claim to protect the earth without protecting the Annies of the earth. She is that Mother Earth representation, the mitochondrial Eve. And if you don't listen to the Annies in your life, your new world that you're building, like smoke and stack, will come to an end. To all those who saw themselves being and breathing and existing in love and tenderness, in partnership, in motherhood with Annie's portrayal, we saw you too. You have always been a part of our culture, and there is no us without Annie. She is not an afterthought. She is the essence of our divinity and our humanity. So that was my homage to the character Annie. All right, let's chop it up. I got some funny memes to show you all. Pastor Ben, I'm going to send you the invite here. All right, I have sent you the invite, so hopefully you'll be able to come on without a problem. And while you are doing that, I am going to see if I can bring up my memes for sinners. And I've got quite a few. All right. Someone said seeing sinners is required to keep your black card. Mm, 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 mm. See, it is a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. Someone said that what's his name? Uh, Megan Good's husband should have been in Sinners because his wardrobe already fits. All right, there he is. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Can you hear us? Can you see us? I don't see you yet. Hello, hello, hello. We can't see you or hear you. At least I can't. Okay. All right. Tell us what your thoughts were. You just saw it last night. I can't see you yet, but I can hear you. Tell me your thoughts. Hold on, your sound is breaking up. Can you hear? See if you can go out and come back in. I can't. No, I can't. Yeah. As he does that, I'm going to show you some of the memes that I created. This one says, let's see. This one says, if I send you this picture, no, I'm about to clean house. So if you have seen this film, you know what scene this is. He is literally cleaning house. He's cleaning house. All right, this one says, If I send you this, know I've been to hell and back. Because literally, he had been to hell and back, trying to survive the night. This one says, if I send you this, you wasn't invited because you're suspect. That's the scene in the film where Remick is trying to come in. He wants to come in and enjoy and have a good time and play the music. Hello? Are you there? Can you hear us? There we go. Okay, I can see you. Try to talk. I can hear you now. You're okay. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Actually happening.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
He was paying black people
Mhm.
to recruit black people.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you confirmed it because you were in some of the meetings.
Mhm. Yep.
That was happening. And that's what
Mhm. Mhm. Because yeah, yeah, he was offering money. Mhm. 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 Mhm.
inside.
Mhm. Yep.
Had they also
Mhm.
six of them, that whole band of them.
Mhm.
See, but that shows you again, divide and conquer.
Mhm. Absolutely.
See, and that's what they did. We okay, now we're gonna turn these so they'll be against them.
Mhm. Mhm.
They do. That's their game plan. Always been their game plan. And this is the crazy thing. It has not changed, but yet many of us still fall for it.
Listen. Woo, that part right there. That part
Yeah.
right there. And we talked about it in terms of the term reniggerization. A lot of people have not
Mm-hmm.
heard of that term. I didn't know that term until the spirit gave me that term. The spirit gave me that term because I was like, what is going on? And he said reniggerization. And I looked up the term. It's actually a real term. It gives you a time period, but it's essentially this turning black people back into a state of ignorance so that they
Mm-hmm.
can be dealt with, so that they can be conquered. And if you look at some of the stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
happening in our culture, that is the goal. That is the goal. When people say,
Yeah.
why is this thing being lifted up? Why is degeneracy being lifted up in our community as something good? It's called reniggerization. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you know that, then you don't applaud degeneracy being lifted up in your community. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
who lifts it up. I'm not applauding it. I'm not supporting it. I'm not buying music around it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not reposting it, because there are specific things that we can do, right? As individuals, maybe you can't stop the whole system, but you don't have to be a participant in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I
Again.
tell people, my page is Black Table Talk, but there are certain things we won't ever put on this page because we don't uplift degeneracy. We don't uplift ratchetness. Our page is not world star hip hop. Go ahead.
And this again shows that what you and I know, music is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
It's spiritual. There are certain chords that you can hit. It invites demonic forces. There are certain chords you can hit, and it controls people.
Mm-hmm.
Pied Piper,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Pied Piper. Uh, but and these are things that, and many people play those chords right there in the church.
Yes, they do. And that is the
They know it's going to get. They know.
time and that is the times when, if you're a spiritual person, like I said, you have people that are prophets, you have people that are seers, you have people that they can they use their senses. The scripture talks about how you can use your senses to discern what is good and what's
Mm-hmm.
evil. Well, what are your senses? It's your sight, it's your hearing, it's your touch, it's your taste, it's your smell. And so I didn't realize for a lot of years that I could smell when something was off. I could smell it, and it would make me feel ill or nauseous when something was off spiritually. And there would be times when I would be in a church and the musicians would be going on and going forward, and people would be up and shouting and dancing and praising, and I would be feeling nauseous, like I was going to throw up. My husband would
Mm-hmm.
tell you, and I would say, I have to go. I have to get out of here. Or I would all of a sudden get a migraine. And I remember this one ministry that we would go to and we would visit often. And it was like every time this one person got on the keyboard, he was very skilled, but every time he got on the keyboard, I would get an instant migraine and I would have to leave, because once one hit, I couldn't drive myself home. So I would have to get
Mm-hmm.
up in the middle of service and leave. And I was like, what in the world is this? What is this? And then I started looking at the scriptures, how God said that the stench of their sin had come up into his nostrils. Sin has a scent. In case people didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
It has a scent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, come to find out a little later on, this person was operating in some gross, and when I say gross, I'm talking about um not gross as in yucky, but sin, sexual sin. And it had come to light, and his leader, basically brought him before the church and that kind of thing, and set him out and said, you can't be our minister of music and doing these things. And so that was like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just going in his personal life, I don't know what it is, but I was like, something ain't right. And when he played, I get sick. I deal with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time for me that it confirmed what that particular gift was that I had. Now, other people, that might not be your gift. You might not be able to sense or smell when something is off. Sometimes you hear
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hear it. Sometimes people can see into you, and they can see darkness within you, and they're like, you sound good, but you full of darkness. There is no light being expressed in you. um and then for some people, we know that the eyes can be a window to the soul. And some people can look
Mm-hmm.
at your eyes and tell ain't nothing back there. It's complete darkness. I don't get upset when people talk about these things or people express these things because, again, I know that people have spiritual gifts and everybody doesn't operate their gifts in the same way or in the same manner. But when I'm getting confirmation about something, I take that confirmation and I log it and I say, okay, this is what it is. This is what I've experienced. This has happened more than one time. It wasn't just a one-off thing. And then I take that information and I put it in my toolbox. I put it in my toolbox. And so that scene with the music,
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Oh, if you're a prophetic person, you are a seer, you can see spiritually, you're going to get something out of that scene that other people won't get."
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some of us
Mm-hmm.
that can see over into a different period of time.
Exactly. That whole music scene was dealing with the spiritual realm.
Mhm.
That entire music scene, and I saw that. You
Mhm.
know, it was dealing, as you said, it was dealing with the past, the present, and the future.
Mhm.
But it was going real deep,
Mhm.
and a lot of people missed what was going on. I know everybody caught the roof is on fire. Everybody caught that.
Yeah.
But there was so much more going on during
Mhm.
that music scene, and it was
Mhm.
showing you transitions, how certain spirits transition and
Mhm.
and continue to move forward.
Mhm.
But I think it was Ice Cube that spoke about the music and how they offer money to black artists.
Mhm.
He didn't use these words, but to usher in certain
Mhm.
spirits.
Mhm.
But it was about degrading music and stuff like that. They were getting paid big bucks to do that. See, and again, this is money. Okay, we're gonna this money. We want you to call women these names, and we want you to talk about stuff. See, this is what we want you to do. So we want you to actually push this out to your people because we want to divide them and we want to put this mentality inside them. We want to turn them into vampires.
Mhm.
See, we want to turn them into
Yeah.
vampires. So that way, you know, we can control them and we know how to deal with them. See, we can use that garlic and stuff and get rid of them. We can give them a stake to the heart and get rid of them. You know, so what did they do? What did they do when Kanye started talking like he had sense? I'm not gonna say talking crazy because he was talking like he had sense. They came after him.
Mhm.
They started pulling that money. See, they tried to do the same thing to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie
Yeah. And I mean, you look at what's happened to him. You
it's
look at what's happened
it's
to Kanye now, and that's exactly what they wanted of him.
mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm, yeah. Oh, and your
They
girl
wanted the
see,
degrading of
mm-hmm,
not just
yeah,
women, but
and
of himself.
yeah, and your girl CEO, I know we don't call her name on here. Your girl CEO, when she started talking on her own, what did they do? Oh, they pulled that money.
Hmm.
She
Showed up.
wanted she wanted to be that vampire that came back to the hood, and the hood said, "Oh no, you can't. It ain't gonna be that easy.
Hmm.
You came against us. No, you're one of them now."
You've been
So what did she
infected.
do? She had to go back.
She she's been infected.
Vampire.
She's been infected.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I want
So you know that. that movie has so much in it. We can't even talk
Mhm.
about everything that
I
it
want
had
to
in
go
it.
back to the ending scene where Smoke, no, Stack and Mary show up again, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
the blues singer Buddy Guy is at the end. He represents Sammy, but also I know
Mm-hmm.
Kugler said that the story, parts of the story is about the life his uncle led in real life. Parts of the story are about Buddy Guy, and parts of the story is about Robert Johnson and the whole tale about him selling his soul. But he said it wasn't really about him selling his soul, it was about an African entity by the name of Papa Legba that he made a deal with, that he tuned his guitar in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for this popularity or whatever, and that I'm guessing he would serve that entity. But at the end, when he shows up in the bar, it is the year 1992, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I looked at what is the year 1992 symbolize, because Kugler doesn't just, we know it's layers and symbolism. He doesn't just put a number in there. They're gonna pop up in the 90s, but why are they popping up in 1992? Well, 1992 was the year of the LA riots, which was civil disturbances centered around race. So it's right. He's putting that meeting with them right on the precipice of another civil rights uprising, sort of showing
Mm-hmm.
that through the ages they're still battling. We're still battling the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So again, lots of symbolism in there to pick apart. I said I didn't even get started on Mary. But Mary got turned. Somebody said it was her,
Mm-hmm.
it was the white part of her. It was the white side of her that led her to go out there and try to bargain with the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, she tried to be a reasoner, right? She tried to be the go-between, the mediator, the ally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm with my folks in here, but I wanna see what are they offering us? What can we benefit from? And
Mm-hmm.
so she tried to be, what do we use? Diplomatic, right? She tried to go out there
Mm-hmm.
and be diplomatic. You can't be diplomatic with white supremacy. That's the lesson
No,
I
you
got from
can't.
Mary.
You can't.
You can't be diplomatic with something that wants your very life.
Mm-hmm. White
It,
supremacy.
it doesn't want you to exist as you are. It wants you to exist as it is.
White supremacy.
So they turned her and then they sent her back in. And again,
Mm-hmm.
that is what happens to a lot of people, because they say, "Oh, you family. You family. You've been around."
Mm-hmm.
They sent Mary in like a sleeper cell. She was activated to go back in and tear everybody up. Cause what did she say
Mm-hmm.
before she ran out of that? She said, "We gonna kill all of y'all."
We're gonna kill all y'all.
And
Yep.
then she dipped up out. And from that moment, they should have known. They should have sounded the alarm and told everybody what was going on. But they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because they were shook
Mm-hmm.
that Smoke had been taken out. Now let's not even, I mean, there again, like you said, there's so many layers here. Smoke and Stack had come back from Chicago. Supposedly they had had some kind of business with Capone, right? You talking about the gangster of gangsters. They
Mm-hmm.
had survived being in Capone's whatever, brought alcohol or whatever back down to open up this joint to sell this Irish drink or whatever, and whiskey and all the stuff. but they came back to a space that, by example, because of what was still happening down there, many people would almost say they shouldn't have returned there to try to open a juke joint, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wind up coming back to a space. And I'm just thinking, I was thinking to myself, imagine having survived gangland Chicago only to come back to the South night, for one night, and you get taken out by your old flame. I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
was a mess. I would have been mad too. Me and my brother have been through some high hell and high water, as they say. Me and my brother have been through all of this stuff, only for him to get taken out by fulfilling his sin. Because right, we know it's called sinners because of all the
Mm-hmm.
vices going on. And so when I put
Mm-hmm.
my meme up with Mary, I said all it takes is one time. There's always one. There's always one. But again,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, this film is packed with so many lessons. I encourage people to go see it. Like I said, I am not a horror person at all. If you if you have seen Get Out, it's probably on par as far as goriness with what you see happening in Get Out. They're pretty much on par. I did close my eyes at some points because I didn't want to see all, all of the blood in that kind of thing. So I did close my eyes on some of those parts. But overall, I think it is a film that will stand the test of time for the culture. I think people will come back to it
Mm-hmm.
again and again and again. I don't need to see it more than once because, like I said, I internalize things visually. But I think it's going to be one of those films that will stand the test of time when it comes to the culture and its contribution to culture and to cinema. Final thoughts?
Uh, well, like you said, this is one that I think everybody should see, especially Black people.
Hmm.
People, but I want to add this though: they came back and were taken out by vampires when the KKK had planned on taking them
Hmm.
out. See, and the vampires told them this. He told them, "Well, hey, this is what they were going to do to you. Come on out and we can be one big happy family and we can take care of them together.
Hmm.
You won't have to worry about it." See, pleading to their will to want to live.
Hmm.
But now, which one was it? Was it Smoke or Stack? It was Smoke, the one that lived to the end, and then he finally died, got shot.
Hmm.
He took out, he took out every one of those KKK members that showed up
Hmm.
at the thing, and he just happened to get hit.
Hmm. Yep. Hmm. Yep. Hmm. Yeah. Lots of lessons in there. I mean, Delroy Lindo, we could do a whole segment on him, you know, all of that. Yeah. So much, so much, so much. I'm going to encourage people. I would definitely say check out some of the reviews that are out. There are lots of reviews out that are in much more detail than what we gave here. We didn't really give away a lot of the film in terms of the plot. But there are some that go into like step by step detail reviews. This wasn't that. I wanted to give some overall points and some things that we got out of it. Um, Of course, there is the element of hoodoo in the film. I want to reiterate to people who may not know, hoodoo is Congo Christianity. So I see a lot of people saying that Christians shouldn't go see it. But hoodoo is a form of Christianity. It's African or Congo with a K Christianity. Um, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a whole lecture series right here on YouTube if you're interested in looking at that, that breaks down what hoodoo is, signs and symbols and all of that. A lot of which were actually in the film Sinners. There's a couple of instances in there where they're kind of showing some of the elements of hoodoo. Um, do you? I think that there might be a prequel or a sequel to this film based on the double endings that are at the end. If you go see it, make sure you stay past the credits because there are two endings inside at the end of the film. All right. I want to thank you all for your time and attention. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host, Shantae Charles. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly, be light.